So, hello, Christopher. I will have a few questions. So, first and foremost, would you mind introducing yourself, Christopher?
Sure. So I'm Christopher Fahey. I'm the Accreditation and Logistics Manager for Lethbridge Fire and Emergency Services. So started with the organization in 2013, and in my current role, I started as a firefighter paramedic, advanced care paramedic, and then transitioned to this new role about 2.5 years ago.
And tell us a little bit more about your organization. So, Lethbridge Fire, how many vehicles do you have? What kind of activities you do? How many stations? Do you have a dispatch?
Sure. So Lethbridge Fire, we serve a community of just over 100,000, but the way it works in Alberta is just kind of blurred lines, so we can move to wherever. We do interfacility transfers. We're also a combined service, so our fire and ambulances do dual roles. Um, Fire, of course, is not transport, but they do assessments, etc. And our paramedics are also dual trained as firefighters. We have 5 stations now. Um, there is total of 14 full-time ambulances. 4 are 24 hours, and the rest are peak time ambulances to cover our kind of hot spots, which we've gone through some data to figure out where we should be putting those on. Our call volume keeps going up, right around 1,000 calls a year. We're
Hmm.
sitting around 28,000 total EMS calls per year currently. We continue to keep going up. Our population is generally an older population. It's kind of a senior spot. It's Canada, so it's still cold, but comparatively, it's not as cold, and we get quite a bit of sunshine uh, for our climate.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And so I know that the whole accreditation journey has started with your predecessor, with Ward, but do you know what was the main objective? Why you decided to pursue this accreditation journey with us?
Yeah, so part of it was initially it was seen as a part of our contract with Alberta Health Services. And that
Hmm.
was kind of the foot in the door. And then as we're going through it, we started realizing, oh, this is a great way to find our gaps. So
Hmm.
where are we missing? So the big thing now of why we're doing this is where are we lower in? Where's our weaknesses? And how can we strengthen them? And how can we show our strengths better to our community, our workforce? Um, it absolutely comes in handy very well too with city council when we're trying to maybe ask for certain things. We have proof now of why we need these items because a third party is coming in and saying, "Hey, we're seeing a gap here." So
Hmm.
city council quite appreciates those notes.
And for how long have you been accredited?
That one I'll have to look up. It's been quite a
Approximately.
while. I do have it somewhere, but yeah, I don't have it on me.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. And so I would assume that it was not that simple. So probably you've gone some challenges. What were those challenges?
So challenges that we found was we're doing a lot of the processes, and
Mhm.
when the accreditation team came in to review us, we found that like you guys are doing the right things, your crews are, but we don't have a formalized process for it. There's no documentation somewhere, and where can
Mhm.
crews quickly go to find that documentation? Um, we have a site now for just-in-time training, which we never had before. So a
Mhm.
lot of those gaps were just the formalizing um, of the policies and procedures that we needed to show that this is what we're doing. Because if what we were actually doing was not reflected in policy because the policy was outdated. So a lot of that stuff had to be updated.
Okay, okay, excellent. And in terms of your successes, do you think accreditation has helped you improve? Well, you already mentioned certain things, but what do you think? What was your biggest success in terms of our accreditation? How did we help you?
I think the way it helped was you always think that you're a good service. Every service thinks they're good. But how do you know that you're a good service?
Hmm.
So when accreditation came in, they were able to verify and validate what we're doing. And that was huge for us because then, okay, these things we're doing great. These things, okay, they're passable. Maybe you can bring them up. And here's our gaps, which we wouldn't have seen before. It's always hard to self-reflect,
Mm-hmm.
hard to shine that light on your own service. But when you have someone else coming in saying, here's our standards, are you meeting them? I think it was great because then we can actually improve. We can actually change because firefighters here, we don't like to change very often. So it's nice that
Uh-huh.
we have this.
So it's party assessment, which is
Absolutely.
that matters. Okay, one last question for you, Christopher. So we will be doing a webinar on EMS on November 27th. And I wanted to ask you a question. Actually, I wanted you to ask a question. What question would you ask to the participants of this webinar? So usually this is how it works. So at the end of the session, we have a Q&A session with our participants. And usually we have many participants. They ask their own questions. But what would be your questions for the panel? As a
Uh,
professional from this area, what would you ask them?
like ones that are accredited or ones who are like looking at it and
Oh, some of them are accredited, some of them are not accredited. We have two panelists from Quebec, one panelist from New Brunswick, and one panelist from Belgium. From your longest experience with Accreditation Canada, what would you ask them? What would do you think would be relevant for them
hmm,
or for our listeners? It's a hard one.
it is. My question is, can you prove what you're doing is proper? How do you know if something were to happen?
Hmm.
Are you confident that you can go in front of, coworkers, a court system, etc., that the processes that you have in place are the right ones? Like, how do you know
Hmm.
that? And that's why that was a big one for me with accreditation is if something were to happen, could we justify that we are doing the right things?
Hmm. Hmm.
Can you justify that you are doing the right things?
Okay.
Question,
Okay.
I guess. If
Yeah, it
that's
makes sense.
the right
Yeah,
panel, I don't know,
yeah,
but
that's a good question. Well, thank you very much, Christopher. I will stop the recording right now.